Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership at TEPSA. And each week, an episode, I look to bring you different guests who have encouraged, inspired, or challenged me in one way or another and bring them on to share some of their story in hopes that it inspires you to share some of yours. Today, I am thrilled to have Vladimir Kovin on with me. Vladimir, tell everybody kind of who you are and where you're from.
Well, my name is Vladimir, and I am originally from Russia. And thank you for having me.
Yeah. And so, Vladimir, tell me a little bit about, when you were growing up, what did you kind of think that you wanted to be as you became an adult?
Well, I always had one dream is to become a basketball player since I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And at the time, I was living in former Soviet Union Republic of Uzbekistan.
Okay.
And that's the Soviet Union collapsed. So we moved to Russia, and finally, my dream came true. I came to America to play basketball. So I got
Really?
a small scholarship at a high school level, and then I played a little bit of college ball here and there. So yeah.
So what inspired you? Like, what was the reason for coming to the United States? Was it to play basketball?
Yeah, that was the only reason. I always dreamed about it. That was my passion from, I don't know, since I got introduced to that game. And yeah, it came to fruition a little bit, not to the full extent. I kind of came here too late. I wish I came here.
Yeah. Well, I always wonder, when you live in somewhere like Russia and you're playing basketball, but then you decide to come to the United States. So what interested you about playing in the U.S. instead of playing in Russia?
Well, U.S. has always been the best in basketball, and I guess this is part of my personality. I don't choose an easy way. I wanted to go through the toughest competition. I feel like it builds character and helps you with becoming who you are when you face it head on, I guess.
So did you move here by yourself or did you come with family?
Well, my sister, she was already attending university here in America. And I was hoping to attend the same university, but I was in Russia. We graduated at a time at the age of 16.
Oh, wow.
And at that age, facing 18-year-olds in college, it's a huge age gap. Besides the fact that the competition level is so much different. So I had to go and do a couple more years after I already graduated high school in Russia, when all my friends were already in college, enjoying some kind of independence. Yeah.
So you had to go back into a high school even though you had already graduated high school from where you were from.
Exactly. It's probably a good thing, not only to build up physical attributes to be eligible to be able to play on a much more physical level, but also to learn English. At the time there was no ESL program. I was thrown into the environment with nothing but native speakers. Nobody spoke Russian to me, and I had to learn how to swim without any help. And to be honest with you, I think that actually helped me with a lot of things, especially the language acquisition. And that's, I'm kind of talking, how should I say it? Precluding what we're going to talk about, language.
Yeah.
So
well, and before we jump into that, this is so interesting to me because it's so different from the life I grew up with, and so that's why I love having these conversations. And so, when you decide to come to the United States, did you know much English?
Well, I started learning English when I was 7. I remember I was first in class to learn the alphabet, A, B, C, D. Although we didn't have that, the little rhythm to it. It was just plain letters. And then I attended a school that was focusing on English language. But unfortunately, when I came here, all I could understand is zoo, 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 because teachers that I spoke with didn't have the same accent. They didn't have the same vernacular. So I didn't know. And then I was thrown into a private military school, and you can imagine the type of vernacular I was exposed to there. So some of the, I don't know if we can say some of the words that the first words that I said, or I was mispronouncing. So anyway, it was.
Well, it's funny. I find often that when you're learning another language, people often tend to learn the more inappropriate words before they learn more conversational words. But I'm so interested by this. So when you're in Russia, do all kids learn English in some way?
Yes, and this is the big difference in the marketplace in general, is that people anywhere outside of America or English-speaking countries are so much more aware of
Right.
why they need to learn English. Because to them, English, as I think that Education First has estimated that it translates into 35% increase in their salary. So English is
Wow.
like a skill that must have.
Mhm.
And a lot of times people will go to learn to be translators and
Mhm.
then get really good jobs in a different field. For example, a friend of mine, we played basketball together in Russia. He was a translator. That was his uh, trade. That's what he learned in college.
Mhm.
And he was a translator in the Chamber of Commerce, in my city's Chamber of Commerce. And John Deere came in thinking about building a factory there. And he was
Uh-huh.
a translator. And little bit we knew, and a month later, he has become the CEO or the head guy of the whole John Deere, and he's still there. I mean, obviously, he's very smart, and
Right.
it it doesn't mean that translator doesn't have all the skills, the soft skills and technical
Mhm.
skills that he has acquired later on or even on the job. But yeah, the ability to speak English is probably the most crucial skill to have outside of any other skill that you may have outside of English speaking countries.
Well, the question I'd love to ask you about this then is, I've been to many different countries. I've spoken to people from all over the world, and just like you said, every other country, it's natural when you're going through school to know you're going to learn multiple languages. And I feel like United States is one of those weird countries where it's like everybody just learns English, and if you want to take a foreign language when you're in high school, you can. But I feel like we are so much more closed-minded to that idea of there's power in multiple languages. And so growing up in Russia and growing up in a country outside the USA, did y'all have that kind of understanding of, oh, they only care about English, and everybody else is learning these multiple languages?
Well, when you're young like that, you don't ask yourself these questions. You're just infatuated with the movie White Men Can't Jump, and how they rollerblade in California and Long Beach, and then you come there and you actually look at it. So you don't really think about it. And you're right that obviously Americans probably enjoying, and English speakers in general, native English speakers, enjoying the fact that they can travel anywhere in the world and everybody's going to tailor to them and speak English. And maybe it's a good thing. I mean, there should be one language where you could all fall back to, right?
Right.
And communicate. But one thing that I learned is that as learning English improves your quality of life with better career and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But learning, for example, Spanish or any other language when you travel abroad is reducing the cost that you may experience when you are in that
Mhm.
environment because you are treated a little bit more of a local person rather than a tourist that people are charging you a lot of money for to stay there.
Yeah. I think that you're exactly right. There's definitely those benefits of being able to go in other countries and not have to count on somebody always to be there to translate. When you have that opportunity to communicate in multiple languages, you are at an advantage to everybody else. And that's so interesting to me, the comments you made about, your own understanding and research and reading about how a 35% increase in your salary just by learning English. And so, you founded a company organization called Overcome the Barrier. So tell me a little bit about that and how that was born.
Yeah. So I graduated from college in America with accounting and finance degree, and I was on my path to pass the CPA.
Mhm.
And I got a pretty good job at Goldman Sachs in New York City, and the things were going well. And then financial crisis happened, and that led me to move to Russia, and that caught up to me there. I got a job at Citibank, and then I was like, "What can I do?" And at that point, I didn't have Uber or whatever else to make some cash on the side. So I was like, "What can I do?" And then I was like, "You know what? I can speak English probably better than most people in Russia. So why don't I just do what I did when I came to America and how I learned?" And obviously, I didn't have any technical skills of how to teach a language. I just experienced it being on the receiving end.
Mhm.
So then, one tool that I was familiar with is Excel, and I was like, "What can I do with Excel? Something that I'm good with, and language learning." And I didn't know. And I posted an ad, and I got a couple of clients. And I came in. I didn't even have a computer, and I was at this in Moscow industrial area. This guy was selling scooters, and he was the head of the company. And we sat down on this big screen, and I opened Excel, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no idea. So I'm like, let me just type bits and pieces of what he's saying. And then after the first lesson, it hit me. Hold on a second. Why don't I just type what he says verbatim in column A, the way he said it, and then copy that into column B and make corrections? So, because when we learn a language, we don't know what we say. There is no feedback. And there's this gap of like, what am I learning? There's always this mush in your head, like you have no idea. So then we started making this progress, and then I'll copy the sheet, and it'll be lesson 2, lesson 3, and then I got an angel investor. Then we got a couple of corporate clients, a couple of oil. There was this one guy; he was a head of oil company. He wanted to learn English, so I came in, and I was teaching him a word skip, and the position was my position was not to translate into Russian. So I stood up and I jumped, and he loved it so much that he said, "You know what? Let's teach all the senior executives in this company." So that was my first big client. I was like, 9 people. How am I gonna do it? So I would come in their office and, doing that, and it was pretty cool. And then we got another oil company, then Caterpillar that signed up with us, then this company Kiwi that eventually did an IPO on NASDAQ, and I was teaching all their senior executives because they had to come in and do the road show and stuff like that. And then we got DHL, Ferromogul, we were exploding. We got an investor come in. We thought we are going to take over. And then obviously, instead of doing it on Excel, using Excel, we transitioned to Google Docs.
Mm-hmm.
And then instead of doing it in person, I was able to hire some people in America. And this was 2009. So this is the beginning before most of these. So I almost pride myself saying we were the first ones. And as you know, and this is what I'm going to get to next, most first players that come to the market usually fail because of, I'm not sure, because they get, I think in my case, complacent.
Right.
Or maybe too cocky. We win the tender with BMW for $250,000,
Mm-hmm.
and then Russian economy collapses. They decide to annex Crimea. Oil prices drop, and companies are no longer investing. We were lucky enough to get an IBM in Japan, a couple of clients in Latin America like General Electric. As you can see, the trend here, most American companies come to these other markets and they have to hire local workforce on the duties. But they also need to have them speak to expatriates, to the senior executives. So most of these people don't. So that's when companies like ours would come in and do it. But unfortunately, it not only because of those macroeconomic conditions that affected us, but unfortunately, adults like you and me who have 9-to-5 job, they have kids, they don't have enough time, literally, and energy to do this. So it's very seldom successful to the point where they can speak like you and I right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
They always struggle because they just don't have enough energy to do this. So now we realized literally a few months ago that in America, the system is very similar, right? Kids are studying a foreign language, and the most American states, they're required to do it for at least 2 years, but they don't learn it. Just the same way they don't learn English in other countries because of simple physical attribute. There are 30 kids and 1 teacher, and you just don't get enough time to be able to practice speaking. The question you asked earlier, whether Americans want to do it, is a separate question. But right now, they are required. So we feel what we're doing right now is just improving the effectiveness and efficiency of that process by connecting high school students with their peers the same way I connected with peers in American school when I came here. But now with technology, you can do it just like we're doing now in video conferencing. And this way, we eliminate the cost of that study abroad experience. So whatever would cost thousands of dollars now can cost $5 a month. And obviously the platform that we created, again, based on the fact that I had no prior experience in teaching, and I was able to do it. And we have all these other teachers who were teaching adults English using this platform and this method. By the way, we built platform. Now we have this bells and whistles. It's green. And
of course, yeah.
intricacies, and these um, mistakes that teacher corrects become fill in the blank exercise, and we measure performance on a lesson by lesson basis to kind of help people sustain motivation. And essentially, now we're bringing this, and we have a couple of high school teachers that have not been afraid to incorporate this, and kids are loving it.
Mhm.
And what was the most surprising thing about it is that not only they obviously are forced, and this is a term that we have to be aware of. It's called forced output, where the teacher's forcing the student to talk. But when you put them in a natural environment with their peers,
Right.
that's no longer forced output. It's a necessity. You have
Mhm.
to, and it's humbling. And if you're reciprocating by teaching your own native language, you know how it feels to be on the receiving end.
Yeah.
So all these things create this enormous potential, as we see, with really going into this marketplace with high schools in particular, because it kills three birds with one stone. Kids do it when they can, and then when they have time, at
Mhm.
when they actually require it, and not doing it later when they're adults and they have
Yeah.
no. Two is that they do it at a very, very low cost because of technology. And
Mhm.
three, with coronavirus and many schools, I just heard Cal State University
Yeah.
has announced that the whole fall semester is going to be online.
Mhm.
We really think that um, if you could learn a language, which we think you couldn't with one teacher, 30 students in the classroom, now trying to do it remotely, I mean,
Mhm.
now I think it's even a more opportune time to get into this space. So,
Well, there's something you said in there that I really resonated with, and that is, the way, especially in the United States, the way we teach a foreign language is often, like you said, 30 kids in a room with a teacher. And that's not conducive to really creating that really depth of an understanding. And if you talk to anybody who has learned a separate language, they eventually spent time immersing themselves in that other culture, because that's the way you truly learn. Just like how you coming over to the States and being immersed in that English, obviously that helped your English tremendously. And so I think, having something like Overcome the Barrier, where you get to interact with somebody consistently, and like you said, it's a give and take. And so not only are you learning something, but you're helping them learn something as well. And so how many languages exist within your company?
well, we have several business models incorporated. We have not shelved yet the two-sided marketplace where people come to us to learn English,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they would come with a request for French or German or any other language. But right now, with about 11 million kids in America learning foreign languages, 70% of it, 7 million, are learning Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And our focus when it comes to peer-to-peer is essentially Spanish at the moment,
Right.
because in some places like Miami, if you don't speak Spanish, you may not be able to communicate with an Uber driver. Not that
Mhm.
you have to, but some of these other jobs, like if you're a chef, a lot of times your staff will not speak English,
Yeah.
or if you are housekeeping, or people that and I'm not trying to suggest that these are the only jobs, but a lot of times these people will not be able to speak English. So we focus on Spanish in particular, and we know that we have a very large population of kids in Latin America that are keenly aware. But our eventual goal is to give anybody an opportunity to learn any language.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the motivation, as far as we can foresee, is comes from your heritage.
Mhm.
So a lot of times a person from Finnish descent or ethnicity, like second or third generation, he or she, they might be offered only to learn what Spanish,
Mhm.
French, or Latin, or Mandarin or something. Uh,
Yeah.
how do you where do you find Finnish? And then there are all these apps that exist to do it. But I think that would, and we already know it for sure, as they're exposed to the peer in Finland, and they have so many common interests,
Mhm.
they will stay they would look forward to doing this.
Yeah.
So eventually it will be any language.
Well, like I said earlier, and like you've said, I just love the idea of the immersion aspect. I think that's what makes this sound different. Is, like you said, there are other apps that claim to be language learning apps, and it's you repeating things or watching videos, but that actual opportunity to have conversations, to immerse yourself in that language, and also feel like you're helping somebody else at the same time. I mean, to me, that just makes this seems so unique and different than anything else out there. So, Vladimir, if there are people who are listening or watching now and they are interested in learning more about this, where can they go to learn more about this?
It's very simple. It's O as in onion, C as in Charlie, T as in Tom, B as in boy, .us. So it's a 4-letter word, just like Zoom.us. It's OCTB.us.
There we go.
Yep.
Well, Vladimir, I think this is just, I think this program has so much potential, especially here in the States, of being something really powerful. And, most of my viewers and listeners are educators. And so the fact that this is something that they can even try right now inexpensively from their homes while we're all stuck home anyway, it's like, why not take advantage of learning another language and connecting with other people at the same time? So, Vladimir, if there was one thing you wanted people to walk away with from this conversation today, what would your one thing be?
I want, I guess, people to realize that not to be scared, especially the educators. I feel like we are stuck in a status quo.
Yeah.
But guess what? We have new reality and we have to deal with it. And sometimes trying to solve the problem that never been solved in the same way in now virtual environment,
Mm-hmm.
it is now apparent it's increasingly more difficult. So I want the educators to look at what we are doing
Mm-hmm.
as an opportunity to test this out. First lesson is free. Any of your students, and that there are some that are more motivated than others, that would test it out, and that don't be afraid of the financial aspect of it. I know they're stuck in this budget constraints and who's going to pay for it. I think the price that we have that is $10 a month for unlimited exchanges is on par with Netflix. It's cheaper than Netflix. It's cheaper than
Yeah, that's a great deal.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you wouldn't even notice that as an expense. You spend more money on coffee probably in the next 2-3 days.
Right.
And have them try it, and then have the parents look at it. I don't think we can solve the problem of budgetary constraints again, especially now with coronavirus putting more burden on less taxes coming in, and schools and districts are going to look at finding a way to reduce the cost. I think you could be the teachers. I mean, the motivation behind and to give these resources to the kids and the parents and let them test this out.
Yeah.
And we will take care of everything else. Like it's super simple. Literally, they need to click one button. We'll send a Zoom link. They don't have to register, and then they test it out. We'll record it, and then you, as a teacher, you look at it. We'll provide you the transcripts with corrections, and then walk you through the rest of the steps and the performance graphs that we have. At this point, it doesn't matter. I think taking that leap of faith,
Yeah.
and lose your fear, and giving these kids an opportunity that won't cost you anything. And that's what some of these teachers that have already done. They see that. We have a quote from one of the teachers. She said, "The kids really fly. They become they really it feeds them." So that's what one thing I would really um, uh, recommend is to not be afraid. I know it's easier said than done, but right now there's no point to try to solve the old problem with the same problem that didn't work in the first place in this new environment that we're in.
I love that. Well, Vladimir, I was so excited when you agreed to come on and chat with me today, not only about, your own path, but also about overcoming the barrier. And I think this is such a unique organization and new unique opportunities. So thank you for coming on Tell Your Story today.
Todd, it was my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
And thank you everybody for listening or watching another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out past episodes on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever you get your stuff, it's there. I hope today's conversation with Vladimir has encouraged you to get out there and tell your story, because every story matters.